The Malamulele task team given a second chance to negotiate for a separate municipality. Illegal mining is in the headlines once again after 5 illegal miners were shot and hacked to death earlier this week. Who will be Africa's champions? The final is today at 1600 hours Central African time, and that is the AFCON tournament. A very good morning and a warm welcome to yet another exciting edition of your favorite show, Media Monitor, your program where we give in-depth analysis of the day news as well as events that got the country and the region talking. I'm your host, Alicia Jali. Our call-in topic for the day is, will there be peace in Malamulele, or will the Cooperative Governance Minister Pravin Gordhan peace talks prove futile? Do share your views concerning this topic by calling us on the following numbers. It's +2711 714 6843, 714 6847 and 714 6857, or interact with us on Twitter at SA Media Monitor, as well as on our Facebook page Media Monitor, including our email address. It's mediamonitor@sabc.co.za. Very good morning to you. Our guest this morning, let's welcome Mr. Rapule Dabane, political editor at City Press. Rapule, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us on Media Monitor.
Morning, and thank you.
All right, well, let's have a look at the news making headlines today so we can talk about all the news that are making headlines today, Rapule. All right, of course, it is the weekend August, and there it is. Let's start with the Sunday Independent. The Sunday Independent is leading with President Jacob Zuma's toughest week. We're going to get more into that story, and it's basically outlining how the president has had to answer very tough questions regarding, of course, the ESCOM issues this week. Let's have a look at more news. The weekend August, SA wants to see the light. Another story, of course, related to the constant load shedding that has been happening throughout the country. The Sunday Mail, of course, it says new capital city takes shape. The Sunday Tribune, once again, another ESCOM story. 5 dark years. Very interesting. I can't wait to hear what Rapula has to say regarding this story. And the Sunday Times, a very, very interesting story in a turn of events, a shocking twist in the axe killings. Now, these killings happened at, of course, a Gulf estate, and, of course, now new evidence is implicating the son to have self-inflicted wounds. We're going to find out more about that story in a short while. And last but not least, another gruesome story. Pupils to our racist rape ordeal. What is happening in this country in terms of racism? Are we turning a blind eye, or are we just sweeping it under the carpet? Do share your views. A very good morning. Now, Rapula, let's talk about, of course, our biggest headline this week. It is, of course, President Zuma's toughest week. Now, this story is basically about the fact that everybody's looking to the president, and they're hoping that he actually addresses some of the issues when he goes ahead with the State of the Nation address next week, Thursday. What are your views, Rapula?
Yeah, it is a very important State of the Nation address, particularly given the fact that in the last few weeks, we've had to deal with load shedding, and I think every South African is concerned about that. It affects us at home, it affects us at work, it affects everything, and it's actually it's interesting the treatment that story has been given by the different papers.
Absolutely. 5 newspapers leading with that story, and it seems to be an ongoing problem, Rapul.
Yeah. You will see, for example, that the Sunday Tribune has chosen to highlight the dire situation that we face. The headline is 5 dark years, and the subheads say traffic chaos, sewage spills, more crime, falling GDP. So that the angle is meant to accentuate the kind of problems that we have. And this is not all of the problems that we have. And I think it's something that we have to think about. They say this will continue for the next 2 to 5 years. But if you look at the Sunday Independent as well as the Weekend Argus,
SA wants to see the light, basically.
They say President Zuma's toughest week. Nation looks to leader to end ESCOM stuckness. So there's a slight positive spin to say, let's all look forward to Thursday. A solution is going to be announced. If you read the story, it says at the Makgotlas of the ANC as well as cabinet, the ANC discussed a plan, and we should all be looking forward to the announcement of this plan. So it's a slightly positive spin as opposed to the Sunday Tribune, which emphasized how problematic the pitfalls.
It says here, Rapula, that ESCOM hit an all-time low this week when it lost more than a third of its 43,000 megawatts of electricity. That basically means that half the country was load shedding at the same time.
Yeah, no, it was really bad. I mean, on one day, I think it was Wednesday, they announced in the morning that there would be load shedding, and announced maybe 2 hours later to say there won't be load shedding, and then they announced that there will be load shedding and it will then go to stage 2. You know, what does show
mixed information as well
is also that they're not fully in control of the situation. There's a lot of maybe outside factors or factors that they cannot anticipate. So I think that's also adding to like the pessimism, you know, because we are not sure exactly what we're dealing with. But however, government is saying, let's bear this, let's be patient. We have to go through this for the next 2 to 5 years. And then if we do that, we'll ensure that in the long term, we will never experience power shortage, because we don't want to be one of those countries where I've been to other countries where it's a standard part of life that electricity goes off at any time. You know, in South Africa at the moment, they're trying to control it, they're trying to announce what time it's going to happen, for how long it's going to happen, but actually in reality, they're not quite following those announcements to the letter.
And Rapula, we could get into all sorts of debates about the fact that, you know, people are getting mixed information. It's not the proper information. And apparently thieves are just running wild because they know when load shedding is going to happen in some places that you can't even access. And I don't even think any of these newspapers have actually looked at the socio-economic effects that load shedding has besides just business. But let's leave it there. I really want us to talk about the story. Pupils to our racist rape ordeal. Rapula, when are we going to tackle racism in this country? If you read this article, it seems that we need to start a debate or an indaba. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it's a quite an important matter. If we read the accompanying article in City Press that talks about that rape ordeal, it says, written by Monili Makhanya, it talks about the fact that rape on its own is quite horrible. It really has to be one of the worst crimes alongside murder. But then he also goes on to say, so that's bad enough. But if there's an added element of racism, then the situation goes beyond control. And I think racism has become quite the issue.
But why aren't we starting debates about it, Rapula? It seems that people just want to move on and not really talk about it. Meanwhile, it is quite prevalent. We've seen in the last reports, and it's always happening among the young people. That is what is so worrying.
Yeah. I mean, you are quite correct. That is a dilemma that this country faces. There's a segment of society that says, you know, stop blaming everything on apartheid. You know, we're now 21 years into democracy. We've got to move on. Let's look to the future rather than at the past. But actually, almost every single day, there's a new incident that comes up, and that reminds us that we still have a long way to go. We still have a long way to go. We still have not overcome the legacy of racism.
Let's leave it there, Rapula. It's fine. We have to. Unfortunately, we've run out of time on our newspaper segment. But do stay tuned for more Media Monitor shortly after this.
For Masipala for a long time. Masipala must be on the way coming to us.
Ek is 'n Kaap. Ja, ek het 'n paar besige. Hoekom?
This is Media Monitor. Welcome back. Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Pravin Gordhan, has proposed that the area should be given its own municipality. Calm, though, has been restored in the Malamulele area after weeks of violent protests pending today's community meeting. Morning Live presenter Lien Manis interviewed Municipal Demarcation Board Chairperson Jane Tupane earlier this week. Let's have a quick look at this insert.
Came up also with the service delivery issues, and indeed the report does indicate that the Malamulele side of the Thulamela municipality lags behind in terms of services as compared to the remaining part of the municipality. That is, the service backlog is heavier on that side. The report also picks up that there are some ethnic and tribal issues.
To give us more on the Malamulele story, we are now joined from our Pretoria studios by Professor Kyaleboga Mapunya of UNISA. Professor, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Media Monitor.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Felicia.
Now, Professor, the issue with Malamulele, in your view, judging by all the grievances by the residents, do you really think they have a solid case in demanding a separate municipality?
Well, let's start with the issue of 2013, because this issue doesn't just come right now. The Malamulele debacle. It started around 2013, and towards the elections of 2014, it there was an eruption, and then of course there was a slight lull. So in short, personally, I believe that they do have a case because, as you mentioned, especially the chairperson of the Municipal Demarcation Board, alluding to the fact that there are, there's a backlog of services, and but unfortunately, this issue also seems to be taking also an ethnic or tribal, dimension. So yes, they do have a case, but of course, the issue is how to resolve it by involving all the relevant stakeholders.
Professor, look, we know that Pravin Gordhan had said that they would look into the service delivery processes and eventually came to conclude that Malamulele didn't in fact qualify for a separate municipality. But now there's apparently a new proposal. What do you think this means? Were the residents then justified in their quest for the separate municipality? I mean, Bembe municipality did say that they were not responsible for delivering water and electricity to the area. What's going on there, Professor?
Look, we have the Thulamela municipality under which Malamulele falls. And then if I was a resident of Malamulele, obviously I'll be looking at that municipality whenever there are no services, whenever there's no water or the roads are not in a good condition. So on the one hand, the residents do have a case. I suppose Malamulele is not a unique case in terms of municipalities in South Africa where effective service delivery and efficient service delivery is happening. So if they believe that there is no effective service delivery taking place in the area, they have a right to point the fingers at the municipality. That's on the one hand. But on the other side, we also have to be aware that this case is much more complicated than it looks, because we can trace the issue from as far back as the pre-1994 era, when Malamulele had its own separate municipality under a transitional authority called Shingwezi, and in that case, you have to look at the perceptions of the residents in the area to understand why they are pushing for a municipality. In other words, it's got a political dimension as well.
Professor, really now, does this signal the crisis when it comes to service delivery nationwide? We've seen residents in various parts of the country taking to the streets for services, yet we've also seen some municipalities receive clean audits, meaning that there is proper service delivery. What do you think of this?
that is the unfortunate, situation or consequences of uneven governance in our municipalities. In a sense that we do have municipalities that are effective and efficient in delivering services, to their residents. Unfortunately, we have municipalities such as the one under which Thulamela, the Malamulele Falls, where residents themselves, not outsiders looking from the outside and talking about the situation, are the ones who are pointing fingers at the lack of service delivery or the dissatisfactory conditions in which they find themselves in terms of services. So one can only hope that the situation will be improved, like I mentioned, with the collaboration of all the relevant stakeholders. Up to now, we have seen a few community leaders and as well as government. But normally, whenever you have such a situation, you want all the relevant stakeholders, including civil society organizations, participating in such a discussion and debate.
Professor, before I let you go, look, the board has already concluded on the matter, but do you think, is there any way forward for the people of Malamulele?
It looks very, very complicated in a sense that if you look at the legislation says that, especially the Municipal Demarcation Act, it gives the powers to the MDB or the Municipal Demarcation Board to rule and demarcate and redemarcate or redetermine my municipal boundaries. And once it has given its recommendations to government, government must implement. However, there is also the role to be played by the minister in question, in this case, COGTA, or Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. Yes. So I seem to think that they are looking at resolving the issue by using the two arms of authority and also listening to the community. So there could be a silver lining that we are seeing, and there is hope for the resolution of the issue.
Professor, thank you so much for your time this morning. That's Professor Kelebo Hamapunya of UNISA giving us his introspection on the Malamulele debacle. Now, Rapula, he mentioned something very interesting, the professor here. He says this has now turned into ethnic and tribal conflict. Do you believe in that?
I think there's definitely an element of that. I think underlying issues of service delivery, it's actually...
But how are these two related?
Issues of trust and of viewing other people as the other. It's something, our earlier discussions about how South Africa must overcome all these legacies of tribalism, racism. So I think that helps fuel the fires. But I think this is quite a difficult one for the Municipal Demarcation Board, because I actually watched the interview during the week with the chairperson of the Demarcation Board, and she made it clear that they've come to the conclusion that Malamulele cannot have their own municipality because it won't be viable economically. She said they had determined that most of Malamulele mainly survives on grants from government. People survive on grants from government, so that cannot be enough to constitute a municipality. And in fact, if you look at the fact that
but what does that mean, Rapula? Does that mean that if people are poor, they don't deserve to have a separate municipality?
No. A municipality has to be viable for it to be able to provide services to the people. So being put up in a bigger municipality does not mean you don't have a municipality. It means you get to benefit from your neighbors who might have more resources, and they get to share them with yours.
But clearly those resources are not being shared, Rapula. That is why people are protesting.
Well, we don't know that. The example I wanted to give to you was the fact that if you had, for example, Soweto just having its own municipality, it obviously would not have the same resources as Johannesburg.
Hold that thought, Rapula. We have Rumeka on the line from Malamulele. Rumeka, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Please go ahead and give us your views.
Yes, I'm Chuma. I'm just saying to SABC that the news that you have been broadcasting last week was very much confusing, because we were in the meeting with Minister Gordon, where now he has proposed the second phase of Malamulele so that it must become a municipality, not 100% Malamulele, as the protesters were doing. It is the new South Africa, where now Matiba, Nelson Mandela, Rolihlahla has fought for us, or as Venda and Tangan people. We must come together and make a greater one Malamulele municipality. There is no problem about the issue of fighting and racism, where now our professor, CFS, said the Tonga-speaking people are refusing service from the Venda-speaking people. We are living together. We love one another. We are a unity. We are not fighting. There is no problem that we can say the Venda-speaking people are killing the Tonga-speaking people. There is no war. There is no fight. There is love and peace and harmony. It's only the matter of service delivery. But we are saying we are over with the service delivery because we have spent more than 14 years asking for one thing, service delivery. So the ANC government has said, and they've urged us to go and vote because our president came here and he lied. As the honorable president, it's not good to lie. But he said, I will come back. And our honorable premier also told the sensitive issues on a radio, not coming to Malamulele to speak to the people of Malamulele to say, calm down. We have faith in phase
All
one.
right, Ramoka,
so
thank you so much.
Until
We
our
have to leave
minutes
it
are
there.
gotten.
All right, thank you so much, Rumeka. That's Rumeka from Malamulele. Before you give your comment there, Rapula, let's take a look at some of the tweets that, of course, some of the viewers are sending us in regards to this topic. There we go. At Twanelo 8004 says, ain't no such thing as people shall govern, leaders shall govern. Barney says, would set a dangerous precedent, encouraging and condoning a culture of terror. Dialogue-only solution can never be exhausted. And of course, Mulligan Mites says, stopping the tribalistic agenda coming through some of the rhetoric. Clearly, it's Tonga versus Venda, no good. And I don't think that the newspapers actually have captured that aspect in terms of the tribal issues that could be within this issue. Well, we're going to take a very quick ad break. And when Media Monitor returns, we delve into illegal mining. Go on our Twitter or Facebook accounts and, of course, comment about the story or do call us on the numbers that will be below on your screen there. We'll be back shortly after this.
Where I come from, I have seen poverty, I have lived poverty.
Our concern is extra lessons must be considered so we can be more educated.
The government should try and absorb as many young people into the mainstream economy.
Our country is full of a lot of youth that have suffered as a result of unemployment.
Crime is a monster that is taking our citizens' life.
Accessibility and the distance to get to the clinics, if that can be improved, that would be a great thing for South Africans.
More emphasis should take place to educate people about their human rights.
If you are working for someone else, you are just working so that you can support your family, not for financial freedom. If you want financial freedom, you have to start your own thing.
The State of the Nation address with President Jacob Zuma, 12 February from 6 p.m.
This is Media Monitor. Welcome back. Illegal mining activities ended in tragedy once again when gangs exchanged gunfire in an old mine shaft near Benoni on the East Rand. Gauteng police say 5 illegal miners were shot and hacked to death after a fight erupted between 2 groups of illegal miners. Let's have a quick look at this insert compiled by one of our producers, Sibusisiwe Tong.
Johannesburg, known as the City of Gold, sits on the biggest gold basin ever discovered. It is not surprising that many of the neglected mines have seen a recent boom in illegal mining activities. Many illegal gold miners, known as Zamazamas, descend deep underneath the surface. They often spend weeks underground, laboring away at the country's unused gold reserves. Reports indicate that illegal mining is now so widespread, lack of policing in the mines has seen this practice go on largely unabated. The wide networks involved in these illegal mining activities have become a showground to deadly gang warfare between rival groups.
Well, let's now welcome Mamokgethi Malopiane, mining analyst, to give us more insight as to what happens with illegal mining and the Zamazamas. Mamokgethi, thank you so much for joining us on Media Monitor. Very good morning to you.
Thank you.
Now, look, Mamokgethi, in your extensive knowledge of the industry, just how huge are these illegal operations and how do they thrive and just who benefits?
Well, first of all, it's a well-organized syndicate. It is well-resourced. It is very, very clearly structured. And the government, if I recall, last year said illegal mining cost the mining industry about 5.6 billion in terms of the amount of money they make from their illegal activities. As you can see, it is a very profitable industry. It is a very well organized and coordinated at that section of mining that is not really recognized. And therein lies the challenge. It's well resourced, it's a profit-making industry, and therefore it is almost impossible to penetrate and stop.
Mamokgethi, that is exactly what I wanted to ask you next. In your view, why is this illegal mining still prevalent? And when there's also allegations that these miners are even selling to legitimate mining companies.
Absolutely, yes, there are such allegations. But more worrying is the fact that the combative method that the government has taken seems to not be effective, as in where there are supposed to be inspection of whether the shafts that are no longer operational have been closed properly, whether they have been cordoned off, that no activity can take place. That has been lacking on the part of government. And again, perhaps it's one of the things that must be raised at the mining industry that's coming up this week, to say, how do we monitor as government the illegal activities of mining? It is perhaps time to bring in the hawks. It is perhaps time to prosecute the cases at a level of an NPA, so that those who are involved in it can see that government takes it seriously and therefore are trying to curb this growing business that has made some individuals, leaders of syndicates, quite a lot of money.
Mamokgethi, 5.6 billion rand per year on illegal mining, and it seems that government is aware. But what are they doing about the scourge?
They have tried. I know they are trying to put together, or they've put together a task team that will be working with the hawks to really try and combat these activities. But remember that those who are in the industry, who are operating illegally themselves, are not going to be forthcoming about the information.
Absolutely not.
In fact, a mining company, so individual mining companies that are for gold, for it must be noted that the prevalence of illegal mining is in closed gold mining shafts. So mining companies, individual mining companies that operate in South Africa, some of them have invested about 300 million to try in high-tech technology and security to try and combat illegal mining. But of course we know that they are failing. Their efforts has not curbed this prevalence of illegal activities.
But Mamokgethi, who are these illegal miners? Where do they come from? I mean, I've seen, of course, reports stating that it's actually some of the miners that were left desolate when the mines closed, or it's just people that are coming in to try their luck and try to make a living. Who are these illegal miners?
Yes, indeed. Some of them might be miners who had worked previously, but also some of them are people recruited by syndicate owners of this illegal mining to say, you will make money, and in turn you will mine for me or look for this gold, and in turn I will give you money. We know the challenge we are facing in South Africa is the fact that there is so much poverty. Income is at its lowest. So if people are going to try, so illegal mining becomes an easy way of making money. But in order for you to operate there, as somebody who, as your insert said, Zamazamas, you have to know what underground mining is. So at the base of these illegal mining activities are individuals who had operated in the mining industry. At the base of it are miners who had gone underground in a legal manner when they worked for mining companies, and they are roping in other people who do not know the industry or who do not know mining and activities that happen underground. And therefore, hence we see some of them get trapped, hence we see some of them die underground while trying to extract gold.
Which brings me to my next point, Mamokgethi. We hear about killings in these illegal mines and everything that's going on underground there. But why aren't we getting more extensive reports about this and really put the problem out there to the people for government to find that solution? And we're going to talk about government in a short while.
we are not getting reports perhaps on that because often the shift of reporting on mining has shifted from such activities to wages talk, to union rivalry in the mining industry, to
but this is a prevalent issue, Mamokgethi. It's a prevalent issue.
It is a prevalent issue. In fact, it is not new. For the record, from 2004, there were about cases of about 420 people arrested for illegal mining. Fast forward to today, there are more than 1,000 cases relating to illegal mining, meaning it's been an upscale of a climbing up of the activities.
It's not slowing down.
And it is not, and perhaps your insert is one of the things that highlights that we need in our media to pay attention to illegal mining, realizing that it has a ripple effect on the overall mining sector in South Africa.
But Mamokgethi, let's talk about government. People are very quick to blame the government, but whose responsibility really is it to seal these abandoned mines? Or I suppose when you buy land and it belongs to you, it's your responsibility when you take over it.
Indeed. When the mining companies leave and there is no longer activities in the mines, one of the things that they are meant to be, one of the requirements on the mining license is that when you are going to mine, one, you must rehabilitate the area within which you are mining. Two, should you stop mining and your activity cease, you must make sure that your operations or the mines were properly closed, were sealed off, because remember, these are deep. South Africa has deep mining activities, so that there won't be accident into it. But also, one of the main points is that the area around that mining activity must be protected, as in there must be security so that people cannot just come in and go. And that's one of the things that is part of the requirement when they are given mining license. Therefore, we go back to government to say, have you been very hard in enforcing that? Are you strict with mining companies to say, hey, mining company X, Y, and Z, 20 years ago you operated there, there is illegal activity, this is the penalty for that, for it means you had left that shaft easy to access. Why haven't you closed it properly? And this is where the monitoring and evaluation of the Mineral Resources Ministry must come into effect, must be very harsh in terms of enforcing the laws, because it would be, all they have to do is refer back to the mining license that they had given the mining companies to operate.
Mamokgethi, there's reports that are alleging that police are actually involved in aiding these illegal miners, but why aren't we reading about those stories even in more depth?
I do not know why we are not reading about that, but then there won't be anybody who's not coming, who's coming, who would outright come forward to say, I want to report police activity in illegal mining. It's a well-resourced industry. Income inequality in South Africa plays a very significant role. It is not surprising. Like, by the way, this is not just new to South Africa, or it's a South African phenomena. Often in our media, we tend to internalize things and think it is a South African phenomena. In South American countries, in Chile, in Brazil, they face the same challenges of police officials being deeply embedded within the syndicate of illegal mining from the minute it starts to the point where they will be selling that gold, because it is a profit-making business for the individual, for somebody who gets involved into it.
Mamokgethi, I really wish, people could understand why don't we talk about such relevant issues, and we've got other news that are leading. Let's hear what the viewers at home are saying regarding this topic. Of course, Mahlako Makabuki says the DTI should help and give police a mandate to close under good supervision because the open mines are a danger. Joseph Mulimba says, why do we always have to wait until the lives are lost to take a reasonable measurement? And of course, Ms. Devereaux says, not very. The forever getting caught and someone dies time and again. Who benefits? Hopefully the family they're trying to feed. Very worrying issues. And Mamokgethi, hopefully we can get these issues raised at the mining indaba that's coming up this week. Is that maybe something that we can expect?
I hope so. I hope it is on the agenda of especially the mining communities that perhaps will be attending, or those who are representing the mining communities. But more importantly, it must come from government. Of course, chances are the gold miners who will be at the indaba will probably raise it because it affects them more in the industry than other sectors of the mining industry.
Mamokgethi, thank you so much for your time on Media Monitor. That's Mamokgethi joining us live to talk to us about, of course, the scourge of illegal mining. We're going to take a quick break, and when Media Monitor returns, who will take the AFCON Cup? Do stay tuned for these and other stories right here on Media Monitor.
Didier Drogba, a footballer from Ivory Coast, was named as the third most influential celebrity in Africa.
Where I saw him display, he's very nice player. He always make an impact.
Drogba donated his $5 million endorsement fee to the construction of a hospital in Abidjan.
Well, there are some lesser-known football stars in the continent that you haven't met.
Really?
And are deserving of more attention.
I think we will do better.
The Journal, every Saturday at 1:30 on SABC News.
This is Media Monitor. Welcome back. Let's take Msuku on the line from Pretoria. Msuku, a very good morning to you. What do you have to tell us this morning?
Morning. How are you, Alicia?
We're very well, thank you, Msuku. Please go ahead with your question or comment, sir.
It's a comment. I just want to say to the government, it's regarding the Malamulele situation.
Go ahead.
I just want to say I think it's time that they heed the calls of the people of Malamulele community, because as things stand now, the shutdown is already having a negative impact, economically as well as in terms of education in the area. So I just wish that our government can quickly resolve this, because it's now turning into I'm not sure, I think it's just the media that are shying away from the main demands and turning this into a tribal issue. So I think the sooner the government resolve this matter, the better, because now it's creating tensions between tribes which have been living together for so many years. Why are we talking of tribalism now? I mean, Tulamela municipality has been there for years. Why are we bringing the issue of tribalism now that people are saying they want services? So people should not cry if they are not getting services because the level tribalist.
Thank you,
I think it's way out of line.
Thank you so much for highlighting that. That is, of course, Msuku joining us live from Pretoria. Let's move on to other news. We'll eventually get to talk more on that issue of Malamulele, because it seems that a lot of people are not agreeing with the fact that this could be a tribal issue. Well, Equatorial Guinea's Africa Cup of Nations dream came to a disappointing end amid more shameful scenes in Malabo on Thursday night after Ghana beat Equatorial Guinea to reach the 2015 Africa Cup of Nations final. Africa will crown its new soccer champions this evening when Ghana takes on Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, in the Africa Cup of Nations in the final of Equatorial Guinea. And of course, now we have joining us here Mr. Solomon Izang Ashoms, an independent analyst. Solomon, I know you've been following, of course, the AFCON tournament quite closely, but what do you make about the whole tournament? What did you make of it?
I think, Alicia, if you look at how the whole tournament started, Morocco was supposed to host the tournament, and then at the last minute, Morocco withdrew because of the, security issues when it comes to Ebola. And Equatorial Guinea now took it. Very small country of just about a little over 500,000 people. And I think it's been really wonderful. It started very slowly. The group stage, there was a lot of draws. There was a lot of 0-0, 1-1, not a lot of goals. But once it hits the quarterfinals, we saw so many goals. In one game, there was 6 goals. And I think the best 2 teams in the tournament are actually in the final. So it's going to be a great final.
Of course you'd say that, Solomon. But what do you think, Rapula? Do you think that Equatorial Guinea did a great job in hosting this tournament? At last minute, just to add.
No, we have to commend them and say there were absolutely no glitches.
There was glitches, the fans.
No, I'm coming there. Except up until the last game where violence erupted amongst the fans who just could not take a loss. But I think it's been a good tournament.
Let's talk about the chaos that ensued, Solomon. What did you make of that at this stage? I mean, CAF has all the rules in place, and you think that staging a tournament like this, everybody knows what they're really getting into when they go to the stadium to either play or to watch?
I think it's very shameful. I was very ashamed to be an African football follower. Because that was not a good exhibition of African football to the world. You see those kind of incidents in the 1970s or 1980s, is understandable. But in 2015, the security is supposed to be beefed up, especially when the host nation has gotten to the semi-final. It's really important for you to be able to make sure there are measures in place, So it's really sad. And I don't think they were punished enough. I'm gonna $100,000 fine. I thought maybe the stadium is going to be closed for a while, or maybe you play a certain number of games behind closed doors. No fans are going to be allowed. But maybe CAF is just giving them the privilege of being a host, But at the same time, you have to make sure the rule is meant for everyone. There's no double standard to it. But outside of that, it's a huge thing. We have to learn. Football is about friendship. Sport is about friendship. It's about creating relationship. Unity. That's what it is. You come in there, you win and you lose, but you create friends, and we have to really embrace that as African football fans.
Look, Solomon, I really want you to delve into something. What's the story there? We saw that the Ghanaian team was already getting escorted long before this incident by security off the pitch at halftime.
Yeah.
What was really going on there? What's the story that we're not getting?
At halftime, when the Black Stars of Ghana players were going to the tunnel, there were missiles being thrown at them, and security had to help them out. That was like 45 minutes before the end of the game. So I thought maybe the match commissioner or the local organizing committee would get reinforcement in case you don't have a lot of securities in the stadium, but they were not happy. First, it's about the penalty kick that Kwesi Appiah got. And for me, it was a penalty. He went in there, put his foot, got the ball before the goalkeeper, the Equatorial Guinean goalkeeper, now had a collusion with him. So that was a clear penalty. The goalkeeper was lucky not to be given the red card. But the fans were not happy about it. But you cannot just show your frustration that way. And I thought the security was supposed, at halftime, you need to get the security beefed up, make sure that part of the crowd, the fans who were throwing missiles, you take care of everything. And they didn't just attack the Ghanaian players, they also attacked the Ghanaian fans. So we're talking about a situation that is really uncalled for.
I mean, the Ghanaian fans had to stay in the stadium for about an hour after this match just to make sure that their safety, was provided. Rapula, what do you make of that?
I think I also agree that the punishment should have been a little
more
bit stronger. Yeah, but I've got a feeling that CAF were caught up in their gratitude towards the Equatorial government and the Football Federation for coming up at the last minute.
But is that acceptable, though?
Not. But I suspect that's where this thing comes from. They were grateful that this tournament had happened at all, because there's a chance that it might not have happened.
But you can't change rules to suit the situation, really, guys. Come on. Solomon?
It's unfortunate, because those are some of the elements that makes our football administration, stays stagnant and not really progressive. It's not just about CAF, but if you go to other football nations, you bend the rule based on who is involved. And that is part of the football administration that we have in Africa that is really frustrating, and not just in the boardroom, but it goes onto the football pitch. And that is not really good for the growth of African football.
Let's talk about the Ebola fears that were very, very prevalent before the tournament. What do you make about the whole tournament and how the Ebola issue was treated during the tournament, Rapul?
I mean, from what I've heard, there's not been any single case more than previously existed in Equatorial Guinea that has been reported. So it does mean that Morocco had...
They were telling us the truth, that they had everything sorted out.
Yeah, that Morocco had exaggerated their fears, you know, or there were other reasons that they didn't want to host this thing. But actually, and in fact, in the last few weeks, the Ebola crisis has been handled, and there's far fewer cases coming up than before. So I think CAF were justified to ban Morocco, which they have for the next 2 tournaments. But other people feel that they actually should also have been stopped from participating in the World Cup qualifiers, because that's like the bigger stage. You know, what's the point of banning them from the CAF tournaments, but they get to go to the World Cup if they qualify?
Solomon?
I think it's really sad that Morocco did what they had to do, especially at the last minute.
But why ban them then?
I think because you had to wait until the last minute. And also, I think CAF, in conjunction with the AU, in conjunction with the World Health Organization, they knew that the Ebola excuse is not really a strong excuse. So Morocco was just using it as a cover for other reasons, because health experts actually gave a clear go-ahead for the tournament to be staged, but still they said they were not going to do that. For them now they're going to miss the 2017 and 2019 Africa Cup of Nations, and they've been fined, I think, about $10 million or so, which I feel is punishment enough. But we have to, as Africans, we have to make sure we work together. You don't just disengage yourself from a certain commitment at the last minute, and I think that was what CAF was not really happy about. If Equatorial Guinea didn't really show up to say, we're going to host this for you guys, would have missed an opportunity to see the great football exhibition that we've seen the last 3 weeks.
Absolutely. All right. And that's where we leave it, gentlemen, unfortunately, on the AFCON. Well, I wanted to ask my panelists, what do they think? Who is going to take the Africa Cup of Nations? But anyway, President Jacob Zuma will deliver his State of the Nation address on Thursday. Let's hear what some of the citizens expect from the president's speech.
I'd like for him to improve more on the roads and the education as well, and the health system there, like clinics and hospitals in the villages and everything like that.
Focus more on the educational aspects in terms of maybe, I don't know, injecting more money and funds for NSFAS and any other bursaries provided by government, so that, because we've just realized that in the recent years there have been more students applying at universities and so forth, but then unfortunately sometimes they are turned away due to lack of funding.
Well, one of the oldest institutions, the South African Press Association, will send out its last story at midnight on the 31st of March. Panel, what do you think about this? Very sad news indeed for the press fraternity.
Yeah, I think the media industry generally as a whole is going through a tough period. And I think this is where the demise of SAPA came from, because SAPA used to be the most reliable wire service that almost every newsroom in this country used for many years. But I think what started happening is that as media owners were feeling the squeeze because of readers migrating to digital and all of that, and advertising not necessarily being the same as it used to be before. They had to start looking around where they could cut costs, and there was a feeling that where you would start is with external services, such as provided by wire services, and they terminated their contracts with SAPA, and ultimately this is where this led to.
Solomon, what do you think this says about African journalism? I mean, you've worked extensively in the continent, covering stories from all over, and SAPA was one of those things that you relied on for information. Now it says that we have to rely on international media to receive our own stories.
Local stories, yeah. It's quite unfortunate. SAPA has been around for over 70 years, has done quite a lot. I was telling my wife, if you go to certain websites and certain newspapers, they it's always going to be SAFA's, logo at the end of it. Now you're not going to be able to see that. But we also have to remember that SAPA in itself is a not-for-profit organization. It's not really like a business per se. So I guess, the funds coming in to support what they do and is really not really coming the way it should. It's sad because SAPA has given a lot of journalists opportunities. They've covered stories where normally other media would not go in. Absolutely. They've been able to really get local stories, and for me that is just important. Our stories being told by our people, but unfortunately, over 200 people are going to lose their job, and also we're not going to be able to enjoy that.
Look, let's hope that the new organization that will take over will basically cater in the same manner that SAPA has been catering. Well, gentlemen, I wanted to ask who's going to take the final today. Is it Ghana or Ivory Coast? Very quickly, Rabun.
Ivory Coast.
Solomon?
He took my word. Ivory Coast. I think a 2-1 for Ivory Coast.
All right. Well, I'm not even going to bet with the gentleman, but that is how we end our show today. Remember, viewers, your contributions and suggestions are highly valued. You can follow us on Twitter at SA Media Monitor and share your views and comments on Facebook. Go to www.facebook.com/Media Monitor and, of course, like our page. You can also email us your views about the show. Our email address is mediamonitor@sabc.co.za. Once again, thank you so much for watching Media Monitor. Join us again next week right here. And in case you missed our live show, remember, you can still catch a repeat tomorrow morning at 2 a.m. or alternatively go to our SABC YouTube link on www.youtube.com/SABC News. We'd like to send our deepest condolences to internationally acclaimed author and scholar Andre Brink's family, who died on Friday. Do have yourself a blessed Sunday. From myself, Alicia Jali, and the rest of the QTIV team, it's goodbye.